Hello, I am Samantha Miller, a 32-year-old lady who was meant to be the best woman at my brother Jason's wedding until last month. We've been close all along. I was therefore quite happy for him when his fiancée Tiffany entered the picture. Until I got that SMS from the wedding coordinator, Melinda. Your invitation was canceled by your family. However, retain the $50,000 down payment. My heart fell. I called Jason right away, but the call went straight to voicemail. There was a problem with Tiffany and her affluent family, but I didn't anticipate this. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from before I get into this nightmare. Click subscribe to accompany me on this crazy wedding adventure that profoundly altered my life. Jason and I were more than just siblings as we grew up. We served as each other's moorings. We managed our parents' tumultuous divorce together despite just being 5 years apart. While our parents were busy arguing and pointing fingers about assets, I was 15 and he was 10. Jason and I established our own small network of support. I made sure he never felt alone, went to his Little League games, and assisted him with his homework. He was my biggest supporter, in return writing positive sticky notes on my mirror before important exams and tenaciously standing up for me against local bullies, even though he was younger. Jason thrived as a software engineer at a promising startup after graduating from college. I was really pleased to be his sister because he was intelligent, diligent, and truly nice. 2 years ago, he virtually shouted over the phone when he phoned me about meeting someone wonderful at a charity banquet that his employer sponsored. I felt very happy for him. He exclaimed, "Sam, she's incredible." Blackwell Tiffany. She is intelligent, attractive, and manages her family's foundation. She somehow consented to go out with me. I met Tiffany for the first time. I could relate to Jason's obsession. With long blonde hair, flawless makeup, and clothes that exuded old money, without trying too hard, she was incredibly beautiful. She led a musical life. She had perfect posture and appeared to be genuinely affectionate as she gazed at Jason. Even so, I thought it was my own insecurities. But there was something a little strange about her flawlessly polished manner. After a month of dating, we received an invitation to supper at the Blackwell Estate, a large home located in the city's most upscale area. With its well-kept topiaries and circular fountain that likely cost more than my yearly wage, the driveway alone was longer than my entire street. We were greeted with stiff handshakes and practiced smiles by Victoria and William Blackwell. William, who was tall, dignified, and had silver hair, started asking Jason about his investment portfolio and career path right away. With her cool blue eyes, Victoria, who resembled an older Tiffany with the same athletic build and blonde hair, evaluated me. "Samantha, you are employed in marketing," Tiffany mentioned. Was it? In some way, she made my prosperous career seem like a pastime when she inquired. Trying not to come across as defensive, I said, "Yes, I'm a marketing executive at Morrison Klein." She said, "How charming," and then turned to request additional wine from the server. During that meal, I became intensely conscious of my reasonable automobile parked among their luxury cars, my department store clothing among their designer clothes, and my state college education in comparison to their Ivy League backgrounds. The Blackwells lived at an other level where summer was a verb personal. Assistants took care of life's annoyances, and family names led to opportunities I was unaware existed. I smiled and participated, even though I felt alienated because I wanted to help Jason, who was obviously attempting to win over Tiffany's family. Every time I handled embarrassing situations or diverted awkward queries concerning our family's split, he looked at me appreciatively. Jason rarely contacted me in the middle of the day after we had been dating for a year. "I'm doing it, Sam." His voice was a mixture of fear and excitement as he announced, "Next weekend, I'm going to pop the question to Tiffany. Are you going to assist me in choosing the ring?" "I have no idea." We went to jewelers on Saturday morning, and I saw my practical brother change into someone who would be prepared to spend 3 months' worth of salary on a diamond the size of a little marble. "Whether she's the one, then it's wonderful." I answered him, swallowing my financial worries. When he asked whether it was too much, when Tiffany accepted. I was called initially by Jason. I ignored my residual misgivings after hearing the relief and happiness in his voice. My brother was content. That was the important thing. Tiffany's mother took the lead in organizing the wedding right away. A stately mansion with expansive gardens served as the location. The number of guests rapidly increased to 300, the majority of whom Jason had never met. When Jason casually brought up the expected budget over coffee, I gasped when he revealed that it exceeded $250,000. Carefully, I said, "That's a lot. Do you feel at ease with that? If it would be helpful, I could offer something." Jason gave a head shake. Tiffany's parents were adamant about everything being covered. Apparently, this is not as extravagant as her cousin's wedding from the previous year. I saw a stiffness around his eyes as he smiled. "And all of this is acceptable to you?" I applied light pressure. Naturally, Tiffany values it, and her family has customs. Additionally, according to her father, this is an investment in connections, whatever that implies. He gave a shrug. I was invited to be Jason's best lady. I couldn't express how touched I was. It was so ideal of us to celebrate our relationship by defying tradition. Tiffany didn't appear as excited. "Are you certain you want to take that action?" I heard her ask Jason a question. The pictures would appear so out of balance, and it's not really typical, and would Sam feel at all at ease in that position? She isn't exactly suitable for a wedding party. Tiffany acquiesced with a tight smile when Jason insisted even if the comment hurt. "Of course we'll find a way to make it work if it's vital to you." In hindsight, I ought to have seen that as the first genuine red flag. But even if it meant putting up with the bridezilla and her formidable family, I was committed to helping my brother be happy. I didn't realize this fairy tale wedding would turn out to be so sinister. The bridesmaid dress buying was the first significant rift in the wedding facade. All 7 bridesmaids were to meet at a posh downtown bridal boutique, complete with champagne service and private fitting rooms bigger than my apartment, thanks to Tiffany's arrangement. Tiffany's pals all seemed to know one another from prep schools, country clubs, or family ties, so I felt instantly uncomfortable as the only non-socialite in the group. "This is Sam, ladies." Tiffany, Jason's sister, greeted me with a smile that fell short of her eyes. As I waited for my time to try on dresses, the other women, Madison, Caitlin, Ashley, Brittany, Lauren, and Harper, gave me courteous nods before going back to talking about their recent trips to Santorini and weekend homes in the Hamptons. In the next changing room, I heard Tiffany talking to Madison in a quiet but clear voice. "I am aware that having her here is awkward. She doesn't resemble Jason at all. No style, no polish. What could I do, though? He demanded that she be added." Tiffany let out a loud sigh. At least we were able to persuade him to abandon that absurd notion of the best woman. "Can you picture her standing between the groomsmen in a suit? A catastrophe?" Madison chuckled. "She is, at least. After that, if necessary, we can cut her out of pictures and place her at the end of the line." The shame seared in my cheeks, but I made myself keep my cool. "It wasn't about me today. It has to do with Jason." Vivian, the consultant, looked at my plain top and pants and changed her attitude slightly when she called me aside to talk about gowns. "Marchesa has been chosen by Tiffany to be a member of the wedding party." With a French accent that made the designer name feel even more exclusive, she told me, "The dresses started at $3,000. "Will that be a problem, $3,000? My rent for the month was that." I took a deep breath. I didn't anticipate spending that much on an outfit. "Everybody wears." Once I said in a low voice. Vivian tensed and grinned. "Maybe you should talk to the bride about this. For people who are worried about their finances, we do offer payment arrangements." Tiffany's finely formed eyebrows shot up in surprise as I pulled her away to talk about the price. "Oh, I thought you were aware. Everything about this wedding is excellent," she remarked sarcastically. "Jason would be pleased to cover it for you if it's truly an issue. Since it's his special day, I should ask my younger brother to cover the cost of my bridesmaid dress, completed." I didn't want to start a fight, though. Later, Jason volunteered to pay right away when I brought up the matter with him over lunch. "Sam, don't worry about it." "It's not a big deal," he said. However, I saw that before making the offer, he looked at his financial app. "That's not the point, Jason. It's outrageous to spend $3,000 on a bridesmaid dress, and Tiffany made me feel bad for questioning it." With a groan, he combed through his hair. An anxious childhood habit. "Sam, Tiffany is from another planet. For her, this is typical. Just go with it, please. For me." Although I grudgingly consented, our normally cordial relationship felt strained. In the weeks that followed, Jason was harder to get in touch with. Our weekly coffee dates were frequently canceled because of wedding planning difficulties, and I went days without receiving a response to my texts. The Blackwell Country Club hosted another uncomfortable event, the bridal shower. A 5-course meal, a champagne fountain, and gifts that made my painstakingly prepared memory book for Tiffany seem woefully insufficient were all part of the celebration. I had devoted weeks to gathering pictures of Jason as a child, adding touching anecdotes and greetings to the family. Tiffany exclaimed, "How creative!" as she swiftly turned the pages when she opened it. Victoria Blackwell cornered me by the dessert table, then put it aside to yell over a crystal vase from one of her sorority sisters. Jason later said that you will be attending the wedding alone, Samantha, while holding a champagne flute. No +1. To avoid going into further detail, I took a big chunk of cake to establish that it was really a shame. Finding a mate should be the first priority for a woman your age. We might be able to introduce you to some appropriate men from our circle after the wedding. You might have potential if you put a little effort into how you look and polish your social skills. My cake almost choked me. I'm content with my life right now, however I appreciate your concern. I answered as calmly as I could. Victoria gave me a patronizing pat on the arm. You would say that, of course, my love. It is simpler to be proud than to change. Have you decided how much to contribute to the wedding fund, by the way, the family deposit of $50 to $1,000? I'm sorry. I blinked, perplexed. I had never heard of a deposit before. Oh! Victoria's flawless brows lifted. I thought Jason had spoken to you about this. Both families typically contribute. We assumed you would take care of the Miller family part since your parents aren't available. Really, it's really standard. I was left speechless and perplexed when the event coordinator called her away before I could react. Jason had made it clear to me that all wedding expenses would be paid for by the Blackwells. Why was Victoria implying that I had debt? When I was able to talk to Jason the next day, he abruptly shifted the topic and appeared uneasy. Don't be concerned about Victoria's remarks. Everything is being managed. He gave me his word. My role was modified from best lady to bridesmaid without any discussion when I received an email concerning wedding party positions a week later. Tiffany picked up Jason's phone when I called him. Sam, oh? Indeed. For the ceremony to be symmetrical, we had to make some changes. Jason wanted to let you know how busy we've been. You get it. Correct. Actually, this is preferable. You're under less pressure. I felt more and more excluded from my own brother's wedding as the weeks went by. The last straw was discovering on social media that Tiffany's father had been given the opportunity to speak at the reception instead of me. Rather, the brother with whom I had grown up was vanishing in front of my eyes. I was being methodically pushed out of the Blackwell family's picture as they were absorbed into it. Rachel, a mutual acquaintance who had known Jason and me since college, texted me 3 months before to the wedding. Hey, did you know that the wedding was moved up? I recently received a fresh save the date for June rather than August. Strange. You weren't the first to hear about it. I looked incredulously at my phone. No one had bothered to notify me that the wedding date had been rescheduled by 2 months. I checked my mail right away. Nothing. My email, nothing. Even my spam folder was examined. The new save the dates may have been delivered electronically, I thought. Nothing. Jason sounded preoccupied and a little sorry when I eventually got to him. Yes, indeed. We accelerated things because Tiffany's grandmother will have surgery in August. Apologies. I assumed you were aware that Tiffany promised to update the wedding party. I'm your sister and a purported bridesmaid, Jason. What prevented you from telling me straight out that your wedding date had changed, Sam? I've been overloaded. Tiffany had been anxious about the increased deadline, and the venue shift was a nightmare. I have to get to a cake taste, you see. All right, let's catch up soon. Before I could reply, he hung up, which made me feel further uneasy. The bachelor and bachelorette parties were reportedly held at a winery the next weekend, with separate evening celebrations to follow. It wasn't until I texted Rachel in confusion and watched her Instagram stories that I found out about it. I thought you were invited, but you were unable to go, she retorted. When someone inquired about your whereabouts, Tiffany responded with that. As I dialed Tiffany's number, my hands were shaking. She responded right away for once. How are you, Sam? She had a sweet, syrupy voice. Tiffany. What prevented me from receiving an invitation to the bachelor and bachelorette weekend? I asked outright. What, you were invited, of course. A few weeks ago, I emailed each bridesmaid. Do you mean you didn't understand? Although she seemed genuinely astonished, something didn't feel right. It must have gone to spam. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Jason said that you were most likely just preoccupied with work. When I even brought up the fact that we hadn't heard from you, you put in a lot of overtime. For an instant, I doubted my own sanity, since the gaslighting was so seamless. Had I missed an invitation somehow? However, a fast look through all of my emails folders revealed that there was no such invitation. The following week was set aside for the last dress fitting. The same consultant Vivian greeted me bewilderedly when I got at the store. We didn't expect you today, Miss Miller. The timetable does not include your fitting. Something must be wrong. I insisted that all bridesmaids get their final fittings today. I showed her my phone's text confirmation. Vivian vanished into the rear room and reappeared with an uneasy expression. I apologize, but it seems that 3 weeks ago, your dress order was canceled. Canceled? Who did it? She paused, then answered. Based on our documentation, to take one bridesmaid dress off the order the bride called. Our system no longer contains your measurements. Before I could call, I searched through my phone for Tiffany's number, which made my stomach drop. She sent a text. Sam, I apologize for the confusion at the shop. A misunderstanding occurred regarding the directives. Do not be concerned. We'll hurry. Purchase your gown from a different designer. These events occur at weddings. Rather than answer, I knocked several times and drove directly to Jason's place. When he opened the door at last, he appeared startled to see me standing behind him. On the floor, I could see luggage with their contents neatly folded. Why have you come here, Sam? They canceled my bridesmaid dress. According to the boutique Jason, 3 weeks ago, Tiffany took me off of the order. I shoved through him and entered the apartment. What are you packing for now? I haven't been informed about another wedding occasion. He was decent enough to display embarrassment. Tiffany's family is visiting their lake cottage as part of a pre-wedding excursion, an opportunity to unwind prior to the last wedding. Press. And let me to speculate. Nor was I invited to this. Jason sat down firmly on the couch and moaned. Look, Sam, Tiffany figured that if you weren't in the wedding party, it would be simpler. She thinks you haven't shown enough dedication to the process, missing appointments, and failing to reply to emails. Emails I never got it. I was never informed about these events. I broke off, raising my voice. Can you see what's going on, Jason? They are separating you from your life before them and from me. It's unfair. He made a feeble protest. All Tiffany wants is for everything to be flawless. She believes that your circumstances could be distracting. My circumstances. What does that signify? He lowered his gaze to his hands. You are aware of your commitment problems, being unmarried, concentrating a lot on work. Tiffany believes that since you don't have a partner, you would feel awkward being matched with her cousin Bradley for the procession. I couldn't speak. Jason kept making excuses while framing my independent life and prosperous profession as character defects. On his coffee table, I saw a binder with wedding preparation information. I opened it and discovered a head table seating plan. Family Table 2 was written next to my name in neat handwriting with my name crossed off. Turning the binder to Jason, I whispered softly, I no longer even occupy the head table. When did you intend to inform me of that before he could respond? The wedding coordinator, Melinda Barnes, sent me an email with the subject line, Urgent Family Deposit Confirmation, and my phone rang. Melinda Barnes sent a brief but perplexing email to Ms. Miller, just a last reminder that in order to secure all suppliers, the $50,000 family contribution deposit is needed by Friday. Verify the payment method, please. Regards, Elite Events. Melinda Barnes. I looked bewilderedly at my phone. What contribution did the family make? Jason had told me over and over again that the Blackwells were paying for the entire wedding. Why is the wedding planner requesting $50,000 from me, Jason? I showed him the email and requested. He took the phone from me and read the message twice before obviously going pale. There must be an error. I'll give Melinda a call. However, I retrieved my phone before he could dial. No, I'll give her a call myself now. Melinda's professional, upbeat voice answered the second ring. Allied activities. It's Melinda. Hello, Melinda. This is Jason's sister, Samantha Miller. Since this is the first time I've heard of a family deposit, I'm perplexed by your email that I just received. She was silent for a moment before answering. Oh, I see. I'll look over our records. In the background, I could hear keyboard clicking. 3 months ago, you were named the Miller Family Contributions financial guarantor per our documentation. The signed contract is right here. That isn't feasible. I didn't ever sign anything. I'm currently examining the document, Miss Miller. On February 12th, your signature appears on it. My heart pounded. Would you kindly send me a copy of this document by email at this moment while awaiting the email? I scowled at Jason, who was pacing uneasily and constantly raking his hands over his hair. Verify that you did not falsify my signature on a financial contract. My voice was dangerously quiet as I spoke. Sam, it's not easy. He started, but before he could finish, my phone rang with Melinda's email. The contract I signed committing the Miller family to contribute $50,000 toward the wedding costs was perfectly replicated in the paper. I knew right away that it was a copy of a birthday card I had given Jason months before. Jason, what the devil, I muttered, feeling sick to my stomach. For $50,000 you falsified my signature. Cash I don't, as you are aware. Nothing was forged by me. He objected, then quickly changed his mind. They required someone from my side to be named for symmetry and the planning documents, but Tiffany claimed it was only a formality, that her parents would truly pay for it. It's just paperwork, she said. You allowed your fiancé to falsify my signature on a financial instrument that has legal force behind it. You know that's a scam. With his face between his hands, Jason took a heavy seat. Tiffany remarked, I had no idea they were really going to ask you for the money. What? Said Tiffany. Believed that using my name to conduct fraud was acceptable. Believed that charging me for money I never committed to pay was acceptable. As though prompted by our dispute, Tiffany entered the flat through the open door. As always, she was immaculately dressed, but when she spotted me, her face stiffened. Sam? Coolly, she murmured. What a surprise! I mistook our meeting for Jason's. Did you let the wedding planner know that I had agreed to pay $50,000 for your wedding, Tiffany? Rather of seeming surprised or sorry, I asked straight. Tiffany simply put her high-end purse on the counter and moaned. It appears that we are currently discussing this discussion. Yes, I yelled, we're having this discussion now. You committed fraud by forging my signature. You think that's a little dramatic? She gave a little roll of her eyes. It's not a federal case. It's a wedding planning paper. And to be honest, I assumed you would want to help. Jason is your only brother after all. Participate. They never even asked me. $50,000 as well. That exceeds my yearly earnings. Tiffany waved her immaculately manicured palm dismissively. Well, we thought you had money. Additionally, more than $200,000 are being covered by the Blackwells. Something should be handled by your family. My relatives, I am a member of his family. We don't have that type of money either. I looked at Jason, who appeared more and more uneasy. Were you aware of this? Did you accept this? Jason refused to look at me. It was customary for both families to contribute, Tiffany and her parents said. They gave me the impression that I wasn't contributing enough to the marriage. Her father kept saying that Tiffany would marry down. So rather than defending yourself, you offered up my money. I was unable to hide my hurt as I spoke. He muttered I was going to tell you. I simply couldn't understand how Tiffany got in the way of us. I've made an effort to invite you to this wedding, Samantha. Yes, I have. However, you've been challenging from the beginning. You doubt every choice you make. Our social circle does not include you. And to be honest, Jason is under stress during what ought to be the happiest time of his life because of your negative energy. My bad vibes. Incredulous, I echoed. You've deceived me using my name, taken me out of the wedding party without notifying me, and routinely barred me from every event. You see, I mean, just this, as though I had just validated her argument, Tiffany said to Jason. The drama is always there, making things about her all the time. I stared at my brother, waiting for him to stand up for me, and realized that he was being manipulated. Rather, he let out a long sigh. Sam, perhaps Tiffany is correct. Perhaps it would be best if you did not attend the wedding. We don't need any extra stress at this time, and there is obviously too much strain. His remark struck me like a blow to the body. He was choosing Tiffany's toxic influence over our relationship after all of the hardships we had endured together and the years we had spent supporting one another. "Are you serious now?" I muttered. "I'm not getting an invitation to your wedding. It isn't unwelcoming." Tiffany made a seamless correction. "The only thing is realizing that your presence could cause needless drama on our special day." With tears on the verge of spilling, I reached for my purse. "Jason, I never imagined the day would come when you would put someone like her ahead of your family. You're still too blind to recognize that she has shown you exactly who she is." Tiffany called after me as I made my way to the door. "However, that deposit is still required by Friday, in terms of contracts." Behind me, I slammed the door. I could hardly hit the elevator button before I arrived at the lobby because my hands were shaking so much. My phone rang, and Melinda, the wedding coordinator, texted me. "Your family kept the $50,000 deposit, even though they canceled your invitation." I alternated between crying and numbly staring at the ceiling of my flat for the next 24 hours. How has everything gone so badly wrong? Under Tiffany's influence, the brother who had supported me during our parents' divorce assisted me in moving into my first apartment and phoned me first for any significant life updates, was now a stranger. I finally broke down and told my buddy Rachel everything when she called to see how I was doing. "This is crazy, Sam." When she learned of the fake signature and the demand for money, she gasped. "Not only is what they're doing cruel, but it can even be against the law. Have you recently checked your credit report?" Rachel's questions chilled me, even if I hadn't. What else might they have done if they were prepared to fake my signature on one document? When I examined my credit report that night, I found 6 recent queries from different wedding companies, including the venue itself, the caterer, the florist, the rental business, the photographer, and the videographer. My personal information had been used by someone to seek for credit with several different companies. With trembling palms, I dialed my friend Michael, an identity theft lawyer. "According to what you've told me," he heard the whole narrative and confirmed that this is textbook fraud. "They are now trying to collect money based on false representations after forging your signature and using your personal information without your permission. You should keep a record of everything and think about reporting it to the police." My brother was the subject of a police report. I became physically nauseated at the prospect. Even though he's your brother Sam, he's letting his fiancée use your name to commit crimes. In addition to having an effect on your credit score and financial future, this could put you in legal hot water if creditors start pursuing you for unpaid invoices. I started systematically collecting evidence the next day, including screenshots of the fake document copies of the credit queries, Tiffany and Jason's texts, and the wedding planner's emails. When everything was arranged chronologically, the pattern of manipulation became evident. It wasn't the money or even the deceit that hurt the most. It was seeing that, from the start, Tiffany had been purposefully keeping Jason away from me. The brother I knew would never have permitted such treatment of his sister. The Jason with whom I grew up would have seen Tiffany's deceit right away. I struggled with what to do for 2 days. A part of me wanted to go in order to keep myself safe. However, the half that had always protected my younger brother was unable to leave him, to a woman who had been so purposefully nasty. Social media informed me on the 3rd day that the Blackwells would be holding a pre-wedding supper at their estate that night. All of the wedding party and close relatives would be present at the supper that Jason was preparing when I approached him. Before the wedding, it would be my final opportunity to get in touch with Jason. I dressed attentively in a simple black outfit, professional, elegant, and impossible to criticize. I created a backup copy of all my evidence on a USB drive and loaded it into a tablet. I then took a car to the Blackwell property. I could feel the thumping of my heart in my throat. When I explained that I had crucial legal paperwork pertaining to the wedding that required urgent attention, the gate security guard reluctantly called the home after initially refusing to let me in on the grounds that my name wasn't on the guest list. They probably believed I was bringing the signed deposit agreement, so I was surprised when I was given access. After parking my small sedan among the high-end vehicles and taking a deep breath, I approached the towering front door. Before I could knock, a formal-dressed waiter opened it, and I could hear the tinkling of glasses and the hum of discussion coming from the dining room. The entire wedding party was seated around a beautifully decorated table, and when I walked in, there was an instant silence. The Blackwell family and a few folks I didn't recognize, probably significant family members or business partners. Tiffany's face stiffened into a mask of controlled wrath, while Jason's face lost color when he spotted me. The silence was broken by Samantha Victoria Blackwell's Arctic voice. "We didn't anticipate you." It was stated explicitly in the invitation. Formal dress. She glanced at my plain clothes with disdain. I was not invited. I remained at the doorway and answered calmly. However, I felt I should be present for at least one event because my name and financial information were used for this wedding without my permission. William Blackwell stood. He was obviously trying to frighten the young lady with his intimidating height. "This isn't really the right time or location if you're here for the family contribution." I cut in. "I'm not here for money. I'm here to give everyone concerned a chance to put things right before I have to take legal action since fraud has been committed in my name." Murmurs broke out throughout the room. Jason partially got up from his chair, a look of alarm and embarrassment on his face. "Would it be possible for us to discuss this in private?" "Sam, we're past that point, Jason," I answered, my voice steady despite my beating heart. "I tried having a private conversation. I now want everyone to be fully aware of what has been going on." I took a seat at the head of the table and opened my tablet, utilizing the built-in technology I had noticed when I first entered to project the screen onto the dining room wall. 3 months ago, this paper, which was submitted to Elite Events wedding planners with what looks to be my signature, was obviously utilized for business presentations at dinner parties. I started showcasing the forged contract in a professional manner. Prior to yesterday, I had never seen this document, and I very definitely had not signed it. Tiffany's mother was sitting next to the wedding planner, Melinda Barnes. She glanced from me to the document, her eyes widening. Additionally, without my knowledge or approval, 6 separate wedding vendors have received credit applications using my personal information. Finally, once I showed the credit inquiry report, I was held financially accountable for the wedding events while also being routinely barred from them. Victoria Blackwell's impeccable poise faltered a bit. "These are simply misconceptions that can be resolved." I snapped, "They're not misunderstandings. These are intentional acts, mostly committed by her daughter, with my brother's help." Tiffany's chair scraped noisily across the wooden floor as she suddenly stood up. "You have no right to interrupt our meal and level such baseless charges. Will you allow her to speak this way about me, Jason?" Everyone's attention was drawn to my brother, who appeared conflicted and unhappy. I just caught a glimpse of the young child who looked up to his older sister and trusted me to always be honest with him. "Is it accurate?" Quietly, he asked me. "Everything." "Yes," I stated plainly. "All the proof is right here with me. In addition to removing me from your life, Tiffany and perhaps her parents have been exploiting my financial information without my permission." Blackwell William cleared his throat. "All of this is quite dramatic, but it can be simply fixed. Miss Miller, set your price. Everybody has one." He reached into his dinner jacket and took out a checkbook. 10,020. "Now let's clear up this regrettable misunderstanding." He offered to buy me off in a casual manner, like there was a cost to my friendship with my brother. Everything that was wrong with the Blackwells was crystallized. They genuinely thought that everyone and everything could be bought. "I don't want to sell my friendship with my brother," I said strongly, "and your family's attempt to bribe me simply serves to highlight their character." Tiffany's face was a flawless mask of misery as she turned to face Jason. "Will you allow her to destroy what we've accomplished, all of our plans? She has always been envious of our possessions." "Jason, she wants to ruin our happiness because she is lonely and resentful." Jason, obviously struggling, glanced between us. After that, he got up and moved carefully to the document that was displayed onto the wall while examining the signature. He said almost to himself, "This is from the birthday card Sam gave me." I can identify the tiny heart she usually covers Miller's eye with. He looked at Tiffany. "You claimed that your parents were taking care of everything and that this was all a formality. You assured me that Sam would never be approached for money. We were going to ask her, of course." Victoria spoke up. "Why should we cover every expense? Contributions from both families are customary." "My family doesn't have a lot of money," Jason said, his voice getting louder. You've been aware of that since day one. Sam puts a lot of effort into earning every dollar. You are aware that she cannot afford this." Tiffany took hold of his arm. "We can talk about all of this later, baby." As usual, she's merely attempting to obstruct our communication. No. Tiffany, Sam has never attempted to impede our relationship. Despite how terribly your family has treated her, she has actually gone above and beyond to support our relationship. Jason's tone had stabilized. As though her weight were being lifted, his spine straightened. "I've allowed you to push her away, even though she is the most significant person in my life. You've managed to coerce me into harming her. If she is the most significant individual in your life, that is." Tiffany's lovely face twisted in anger as she spat. "You've just made your decision extremely apparent. Jason, it's either her or me. Now." There was silence in the room. Everyone is holding their breath. Jason gave me a glance. For the first time in months, they actually glanced at me. The platinum engagement ring was then carefully taken off his finger and set on the table. Silently, he said, "I choose my sister. I go with the person who has always loved me without conditions. Whatever this is, I prefer the truth." He pointed around the lavish space. Tiffany let out a dramatic gasp. "You can't be serious! Everything we've put in this relationship, and after everything my family has done for you, that's it." Jason gave a somber response. "To you, it was always a transaction and investment. I was never truly loved for who I am by you." William Blackwell had a startling red flush on his face. "Young man, you'll be sorry you made this choice. I was ready to present you with possibilities. Relationships that would have prepared you for life were unthinkable. Those opportunities would have cost me a lot of money, I'm sure." Jason moved to stand next to me in response. "I'm very sorry, Sam. Come on, let's get home." I heard Victoria Sharp say, "Melinda, immediately cancel everything," as we left the Blackwell dining room's startled quiet behind. Our relationship had already been ruined by the wedding before it even started. At first, there was silence on the journey back to my apartment. Jason seemed both relieved and heartbroken as he gazed out the passenger window, his profile lit by the streetlights that passed by. I continued to focus on the road, processing the flurry of feelings that resulted from the altercation at the Blackwell estate. It's unbelievable that I'd just done that. At last, Jason spoke to himself in a whisper rather than to me. "Are you all right?" I glanced over and inquired. He laughed unsteadily. "No, not at all." After learning that my fiancé had cheated on me using my sister's identity, I recently called off our engagement in front of 30 people. He combed his hair with his hands, but also, "Indeed. For the first time in months, I feel like I can breathe." I made us both hot chocolate when we got to my apartment. When faced with challenging topics, we sipped our childhood comfort drink. We took our mugs and sat on my old but cozy couch. The burden of all that transpired hung between us. "Sam, I must apologize." Jason's voice was full with emotion as he started. "I let Tiffany to stand in our way. Worst of all, I made excuses for her actions and disregarded the warning signs. I didn't shield you from her deceit. You were under financial strain, so why didn't you tell me about it?" Gently, I inquired. Jason's gaze was fixed on his cup. Initially, they made subtle remarks about how giving they were, with hints that I ought to be giving more. Then Williams began talking about Tiffany's former boyfriends, including how one of them brought her family to Bora Bora and another bought her a car for her birthday. It was obvious that I wasn't contributing enough. For that reason, you agreed when they said I could help. He gave a pitiful nod. "It was produced by Tiffany. That makes perfect sense. She claimed that it was really a formality and that your name would be required on the paperwork for appearances, even though her parents would actually pay for everything. No one would ever genuinely ask you for money, she assured you. And you thought she was real." He corrected me. "I wanted to trust her, Sam. I was really in. Everything I believed I desired was embodied by the Blackwells. Achievement, relationships, and a position in their world. Tiffany, too. When she fixed her gaze on you, he hesitated, unable to think of anything to say. It was similar to being the center of attention. I felt special because of her. Selected. I was blind to the fact that the spotlight was really a searchlight that was identifying and taking use of all of my fears. I grabbed his hand and gave it a squeeze. Jason the Blackwells are skilled manipulators. They've practiced all their lives. He claimed that it doesn't justify what I did. I knew it was improper to use your signature. I knew it would be hurtful to keep you out of the wedding festivities. Since I would lose Tiffany if I confronted her, I decided to turn away, and I committed to her for the rest of my life. Now what are you going to do? I asked quietly. Jason seemed unexpectedly tired as he put down his mug and slumped back. To be honest, I'm not sure. Wedding presents are everywhere in my apartment. I'll need to go back. Tiffany's friends make up half of my pals. My work. He walked away. Your occupation, I asked, worried. I obtained an interview with his friend's software company thanks to William. Next month I was meant to begin there. The pay should be doubled. The corner office. He gave a sour laugh. Another method. They were purchasing power over my existence. Late into the night, we discussed how the Blackwells had systematically severed Jason's ties to his past while working to fully incorporate him into their culture. They had recommended more appropriate pastimes, introduced him to better friends, and even urged him to spend less time with our parents due to the embarrassment of their divorce. Jason contacted Melinda Barnes the following morning to formally call off the wedding and ascertain what outstanding debts needed to be paid. She shocked us by telling us that all deposits were non-refundable, but she would personally make sure my name was taken off of all records. She added softly, "For what it's worth, Miss Miller." I was unaware that the financial arrangement was fraudulent. The Blackwells told me that everything was set up correctly. In the weeks that followed, Jason left his apartment, which was too full of memories of Tiffany, and temporarily slept in my spare room, as he made sense of his situation. Together, we handled the legal ramifications of the fraud committed in my name, returned wedding presents, and informed guests of the cancellation. As expected, the Blackwells threatened to sue for the wedding expenses, but they soon changed their minds. We were ready to file charges after my lawyer friend Michael submitted an official letter outlining the identity theft and fraud. They ultimately concluded that a separation from the matter was better than protracted legal disputes that could result in media attention. We saw an unanticipated surge of support as word got out about what had transpired. A few of Jason's friends said that they had always had a strange feeling about Tiffany, but had been reluctant to speak anything. Derek, a groomsman for Jason, even acknowledged that Tiffany had attempted to keep him out of the wedding party because she thought he was too working class for pictures. A startup that had long respected Jason's work extended an offer of employment to him 6 weeks after the dramatic meal at the Blackwell estate. Just acknowledgement of his true brilliance is sufficient. No relationships are needed. He moved into a new apartment, started to regain his self-esteem, and gradually became the real him that he had been before he met Tiffany. "What is the most peculiar aspect?" One evening during supper, he told me. "I doubt that I ever truly loved Tiffany. The thought of her and the status of being with her appealed to me. However, I am unable to come up with any real instances of us connecting." The most unexpected result was when Ashley and Lauren, 2 of Tiffany's bridesmaids, contacted me in private. They had known Tiffany since their undergraduate days and had seen similar manipulation in her past relationships. She consistently approaches successful men from diverse social backgrounds. During a coffee discussion, Ashley explained that guys would be enthralled with her world and would stop at nothing to gain acceptance. She typically grows bored after a few months, but with Jason, it lasted longer than before. "You're telling me this, but why?" Lauren was uneasy when I inquired. "Since we made it possible. We observed your brother's situation and your friendship with him, but we remained silent. For years we have been doing that, and the Blackwells and their daughter need to be confronted." Their candor started a surprising healing process for everyone who had been harmed by the toxic influence of the Blackwell family, not just Jason and me. Ashley and Lauren introduced us to 2 more of Tiffany's ex-boyfriends who had also been subjected to financial abuse and deception. We established an unofficial support group to help people get over toxic relationships with controlling affluent spouses. For closure, Jason and Tiffany went to lunch 3 months after the wedding was called off. He came back with a contemplative expression. She offered her own apology. He told me, saying she got carried away with wedding enthusiasm and might have violated some limits. No genuine recognition of the deception or manipulation. "Have you received the necessary answers?" I inquired. He nodded slowly. I believe so. Mostly, I came to the realization that I no longer require her approval. I can feel successful and worthy without the Blackwell's world. Summer gave way to fall. Jason started dating again, but this time, he knew exactly what he was looking for in a mate. At a volunteer event, he met Megan, a kindergarten teacher, who had a pleasant laugh and no pretense. Their relationship grew gradually, based more on sincere connection and respect for one another than on prestige and glitz. The first time he brought her to supper at my place, I observed them interact with relief. Just two people enjoying one another's company. No manipulation, no power dynamics. Despite Jason's objections and taunts about his awful drying method, Megan insisted on assisting with the dishes. I noticed his happiness across the kitchen. My own career, meantime, took unanticipated turns for the better. When a significant client issue required comparable management, my abilities to document the Blackwell situation, organize, gather evidence, and communicate clearly throughout disagreement earned me a raise at work. My ability to handle challenging interpersonal situations while upholding professional boundaries impressed my supervisor. Although it had been a difficult experience, working with Tiffany and her family had helped Jason and I understand what was important in relationships and how to spot manipulation before it became entrenched. The hardest lessons might occasionally contain the most important ones. That didn't happen 6 months after the wedding. Jason and I were sitting with our parents enjoying a bottle of wine in our lawn when we were kids. Above us, a canopy of crimson and gold was formed by the autumn leaves, and the warmth of discussion and laughing counterbalanced the slight chill in the air. The fact that so many affluent individuals watched you leave the Blackwell home still amazes me. Incredulous, our mother shook her head. My timid youngster confronting Boston's elite. Jason grinned. He now had the self-assurance that had been lacking while he was with Tiffany. He held up his drink to me and remarked, "I had a good example. I learned what true loyalty looks like from Sam." Our father cleared his throat. He had traveled here from Arizona only for this reunion. "I apologize to you both," he said. "Really, we were too preoccupied with our own drama to be the parents you deserved after your mother and I got divorced. You two did a darn good job raising each other in a variety of ways." I looked proudly at my brother and said, "We did okay." Rebuilding Jason's life and our relationship, which had been put to the test in unexpected ways, had taken up the last 6 months. Following his departure from the Blackwells, Jason had made a commitment to therapy, resolving the manipulation he had been subjected to, and investigating the reasons behind his initial susceptibility to it. He was able to see how his fears of not being good enough had led him to fall for Tiffany's strategies with the assistance of his therapist. During one of our weekly coffee dates, he explained, "It's like I was wearing Tiffany-colored glasses." I was so enthralled with the lifestyle she embodied that I was unable to see her clearly. Being welcomed by her family made me feel like I had finally succeeded. His therapy experience exposed habits resulting from our parents' divorce, including his ingrained notion that he needed to earn love by achievement or sacrifice, and his fear of abandonment. He was able to identify warning signs in relationships and establish more healthy boundaries as a result of these insights. The number of people who contacted us after hearing our tale shocked us both. Siblings of friends who had been similarly manipulated by their partners, coworkers who had been taken advantage of financially by romantic partners. Every story has a similar structure. Financial entanglements, a slow decline in self-worth, and estrangement from loved ones. Motivated by these discussions, Jason and I established a monthly support group called Relationship Red Flags, an unofficial get-together where people could exchange stories and discover how to spot deception. What started out as 6 people gathering in my living room has grown to over 30 people at a community center in the area. I never imagined that something so traumatic could become so significant. After being tearfully appreciated by a participant for sharing his tale, Jason opened up during our 3rd meeting. It was worthwhile if it saved even one person from going through what I did. He and Megan's connection kept getting better, based on the principles of integrity and respect for one another. Megan valued Jason for who he was, unlike Tiffany, who had wished to change Jason into her perfect mate. Dad makes jokes about his obsession with science fiction. Yesterday, she asked whether I would want to meet her parents. One afternoon at lunch, appearing both anxious and excited, he told me, "Next weekend, they will visit the city." I noticed that was a significant step. "What are your thoughts about it?" "Actually good. They reside in a small Maine town and work as elementary school teachers. They wish to visit the Science Museum and are carrying their own blueberry jam," he chuckled. "A far cry from the Blackwells and their meals at the country club. Are you concerned about comparing them?" "You know?" I asked thoughtfully. After giving this some thought, he shook his head. "Tiffany came from a wealthy and well-connected family. Yes, but the Blackwells never did what Megan's family does. Sincere joy. Her face brightens when she discusses them. She isn't attempting to uphold a certain image or impress others. More valuable than all the Blackwell millions is that." Positive changes had also occurred in my own life. Senior management at my organization took notice of my leadership during the Blackwell incident. I was chosen to oversee the project when a difficult client asked for someone with strong boundaries and effective communication skills. More grace than most individuals could muster, you handled a phony family scenario. When he offered me the promotion, my director gave me an explanation. "You can tackle any challenge our clients present to us if you can manage it while remaining professional." Along with the promotion came a sizable pay increase. The $50,000 the Blackwells had attempted to take from me was ironically nearly identical. I invested the remainder and utilized a portion to take a lengthy vacation that I had put off, creating the financial stability I had so desperately sought. More significantly, I learned a lot from the experience about trusting my gut and establishing limits. I'd known something wasn't right with Tiffany from the start, but I'd put Jason's needs ahead of my own. I now understood that genuine assistance occasionally required expressing difficult realities, even if doing so resulted in short-term hostility. I had a sense of calm that had been lacking during the hectic months of U.S. wedding planning as we sat in our parents' backyard that fall evening, reuniting as a family and exchanging stories. Jason refilled our wine glasses and remarked, "You know it's funny. I would have thought you were insane if you had told me 6 months ago that my postponed wedding would be the finest thing that ever happened to me. However, here we are." As I raised my glass to avoiding bullets and discovering better ways to find siblings who save you from yourself, I echoed, "Here we are." Jason smiled appreciatively and said, with a thoughtful look on her face, our mother leaned closer. "How did the Blackwells end up? Any repercussions from their plan?" 3 months later, Tiffany became engaged once more. To a hedge fund manager whose family seemingly meets their social standards, Jason responded amicably. "And the fraud at the wedding?" Our dad inquired. "Let's just say that even wealthy families would rather make discreet reparation than risk possible prosecution when multiple victims compare notes and have proof." But I clarified that it wasn't about the money. Making sure they couldn't harm anyone else in our group was the goal. I thought about how things might have gone differently if I hadn't found out about the scam as night set, and we went inside for dessert. Jason may now be stuck in a deceptive and manipulative marriage. I may be in danger of going bankrupt due to debts I never accepted. The Blackwells' practice of wielding wealth as a weapon would have persisted. Rather, we had come out stronger, smarter, and closer to a group of individuals who were learning to identify and avoid toxic relationships as well as to one another. In the end, we received presents from the canceled wedding that were far more valuable than anything on a registry. Jason stopped in the hallway later that evening as we made our way back to the beds we shared as kids. "I never gave you a decent thank you, Sam." With seriousness, he said, "Not only did you save me from a horrible marriage, but you also never gave up on me, even when I was acting like a total moron." "Siblings do that," I said plainly. "We support one another through both good and terrible choices. When no one else will we speak the truth." He gave me a firm hug. "The next time you tell me, I swear I'll listen to you more intently. My girlfriend is a cunning scammer. Perhaps I'm the only one who isn't working on it," but I laughed. He smiled as he made the pledge. In retrospect, I saw that sometimes the most traumatic events serve as the best teaching moments. We learned about self-worth limits and the real meaning of family from the Blackwell wedding fiasco. It demonstrated to us that genuine care and respect for one another, rather than material gain or social standing, are the foundation of true relationships. And that lesson was considerably more valuable than any deposit of $50,000. Have you ever had to confront a loved one who was being manipulated? What warning signs do you search for in romantic relationships? For more real-life experiences, remember to subscribe and share your stories in the comments section below. Remember that sometimes having the guts to leave bad situations can lead to the happiest endings. I appreciate you listening to my experience, and I hope it gives anyone going through a similar situation the fortitude and voice they need.